Yo, 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 NASCAR fans, ready for a NASCAR episode of the Big D podcast. Before I bring in today's special guest, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. See all my content. Trust me, got some NFL, soccer, NASCAR, golf, you name, we've got it here. Also, check out the Big D podcast for your audio listeners on Spotify and Apple. So joining us to talk a little NASCAR tonight is my friend FantasyBosco. Bosco, have you repaired your dead race cars from the Coke Zero Sugar 400 on Sunday?
In they went straight to the scrapyard. I don't know about who's fixing dents, but I think we need some new rebuilds. I told someone if I was a team in the playoffs, I am showing up with either the car that I have no desire to use in the playoffs or a car that hasn't run all that well, a chassis or something that I'm not real fond of because I'm pretty confident we're not going to come home with it.
Only if Paul Kyle Lawson just blow up, at least you have a race car for Talladega.
Yeah, true.
Not saying he did. I'm not saying he did it on purpose because I don't think Kyle Lawson would blow up on purpose. But at least he was the only. At least he was the only driver who did not wreck. He just was on his plane 3 hours before Chase Elliott was.
Right, and to your point, guess what? The only thing they have to rebuild is the motor, and with all the strict rules and policies on the motor, there's not much going on there. They have to do it every so often anyway. They don't have to touch the car, man. Let's be honest. It's a lot easier to make cars faster than it is to rebuild cars. I shouldn't say easier, but more time efficient.
Well, if you think back to Sunday's Coke Zero Sugar 400, was that the craziest crash fest of a race you've ever seen? Because I don't remember a race with that many wreck race calls.
I want to say there had to be. I didn't do the actual count on wreck cars, so you may be right, Dylan. I guess for me, there's a couple of races that come to mind where I remember vividly in the last 10 years watching a race where we literally had half the cars coming to, like a green, white checkered and them still wrecking. I want to say there was a race where we had less than 12 cars running at the finish within the last 10 years. But I mean, to your point, it was a high-speed demo derby, man.
Yeah, how many big? I think there were at least 3 big ones, and you think of the third big one where the guys wrecked in turn 1 when it started raining, and literally all the cars wrecked. It looked like 2001 Winston, where all the cars wrecked in turn 1.
It did. It had that look because the wreck started so far up front that you had no idea where somebody was going to get through. Like, I mean, we've seen it. Somebody's going to find a way to get through, but the wreck happened so far up front. Usually we see it at least, typically it's the first 3, 4, maybe 5 cars that are ahead of the wreck or kind of piecing their way through it. This literally took out the front 2 leaders and everyone behind him till God knows where Austin Dillon was in that pack. I never even looked at the scoring to see where he was there before they took turn 1.
Well, I don't know where Austin Dillon was before the wreck, but we know where he was after the wreck, leading.
Yeah.
And then a couple laps ago, he bumped Austin Cindric. Like I didn't think we see a bump and run at Daytona, but Dillon bumped Cindric, who could have swept both races. And now Austin Dillon's in the playoffs. So you think survive the big wreck and then end up in the playoffs. And that was after spinning out of one of the earlier wrecks, losing a lap, getting the lap back. So, and then literally everything that could have happened did so.
Only at Daytona.
Yeah, so you think we were talking about this before recording, and Austin Dillon's won 4 Cup Series races, but they've all been in some freaky affair. You think Coca-Cola 600, he won on fuel mileage when I think it was Jimmy Johnson who ran out of gas that night. 2018 Daytona 500. Guess what? He didn't bump Austin Cindric, but he bumped Aric Almirola for the win. 2020 Texas, literally he and Tyler Reddick had not made pit stops, and I think that was the Quinn House wreck, if my memory serves me right. And then on Sunday, he was literally in the middle of the pack, survived the big one, and then won the race. Get this. How many laps has Austin Dillon led in his 4 Cup victories?
We talked about this, so I know this. 35 whole laps.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick led more laps when he won the Indianapolis road course. 38. I wouldn't say Austin Dillon's the most dominant NASCAR driver we've ever seen.
No. Racing does tend to, how you do or where you are at the right time. I mean, poor Dale Earnhardt won everything on wheels at Daytona except for the 500 for so long, including, hitting birds and things like that, ruining it. So, luck is a part of racing. We can't deny that. It is a little weird to think, though, 35 laps led, 4 wins. Like, we hear about someone like a Todd Gilliland doing something like that in 1 win. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of the claim to fame for him is the one big win or whatever. But 4 wins, I don't know. How many more can Austin Dillon luck into, do you think?
I don't know. If they keep racing like this, won't knows how many.
Yeah, because we may not have more than 20 cars on the lead lap anyway.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. They were like, what, 9 or 10 cars somewhat running, and everybody else was running, but not really running in the pack.
No, they were just kind of, wheels were turning on the car. They were steering said car, and they were keeping a minimum speed, but that was about it.
Yeah, so now, after thankfully a week of wreck race cars, we head from one of NASCAR's historic tracks to another one of NASCAR's historic tracks, Darlington and the Southern 500. So hopefully there won't be quite as much carnage this weekend. But when you think of Darlington, you think a cheese grater of a racetrack. So what do you expect to see on Sunday night?
I'm sure we'll see some black stripes like always, right? That's a given. The lady in black leaving her mark. And tire wear will certainly come into play. In fact, later tonight, I was going to pull some numbers from the last race since we got to at least see this car run this track this year. I think it's worthwhile to go back and check last year or the spring event. What I recall from memory, it was a fairly decent race. I mean, we definitely had some wrecks. They were complaining about the car being tough to drive. We didn't see a bunch of big ones, but we definitely saw some carnage. It was a fairly exciting finish, if I recall. It came down to the problem was it came down to taking tires at the right time, right? So it's probably going to come down to that again. Who has the last set of good sticker tires and how late can they put them on in the race? And that's probably going to be the difference in who wins or not.
And who's willing to lay the bumper, because as we saw back on Mother's Day, Joey Logano was willing to lay the bumper on Willie B.
Yeah, he was pretty upset about that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he didn't make William Byron or Jeff Gordon happy that afternoon.
No.
So, thinking of the some of the playoff drivers heading into Darlington, would you say Chase Elliott is the favorite for the championship, not just where he is point-wise, but with Chase's consistent 4 wins? Is Chase Elliott the favorite to potentially get his second championship in 3 years, or is somebody else, or do you like somebody else to maybe get the ring?
Ever since we've started doing the playoffs, I tend to like or to want to bet on the team or driver that seems to either they had to be dominant early in the year and it kind of looked like they're testing something like Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team used to do back in the day, or which we didn't have anyone real dominant this year. Kyle Larson was last year. Or I need to see something where we've seen a trend of movement in the right direction. And the car that really intrigues me the most is the 4 Kevin Harvick. They've really been pretty strong the last month at all the different tracks. He has a knack for closing things out. He and Rodney Childress know exactly what it takes to win. They've been down this road before. Nobody's really pinpointing or pegging them for anything. So if they can get through the first round or two, they'll be right there as far as contention, with the playoff points and everything else. So that's the team in the car that I'm most intrigued about. We can't sleep on the Toyotas. The manufacturer there is going to throw a lot on it. I do like Chase. I mean, to your point, Dillon, he's been consistent. He's been near the front. I'm just not feeling it for some reason. I think Hendrick is going to come up short this year. It's just more of a gut feeling than anything else.
Harvick's interesting, especially when you get a hot call and a hot drive. And do I think Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childress have been great throughout the year? No, but Darlington's a race where you don't need the best call. Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childress are going to beat people with the old brain rather than flat out speed. And Darlington's, guess what? If he won Richmond, which eats up tires, guess what Darlington's going to do?
Eats up tires.
Yeah. And Harvick's run really well there, especially the last couple of years, whether it be high horsepower, low horsepower, downforce, no downforce. Harvick can set himself up for the last 100 miles. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but is Kyle Larson potentially? I mean, everybody's going to look at Chase Elliott from Hendrick Motorsports, but I know Kyle Larson's gone through a very inconsistent season, but do we see the Kyle Larson more like last year, or do we see the Kyle more this year, more inconsistent in the playoffs?
I'm expecting some more inconsistency. I just don't think they have quite found what they're looking for feel. I don't know if they were doing some of the stuff that the other teams got caught cheating for. And so, or maybe the other teams caught cheating were doing things to help the cars feel a little bit better. But I just feel like Kyle Larson hasn't got the comfort level yet, whether it's this tire, the car itself. I just feel like he's kind of missing. So to your point, I don't think we can completely rule him out, but I think you're going to see a lot more inconsistency like we have this year. Stop.
I mean, you didn't see a lot of time. You didn't see a lot of races last year where Kyle just spun out on his own. I mean, he finished 36 in the first Darlington race, but I think Kyle and Cliff Daniels can get it together. I think it's smart that Kyle's running the Xfinity race on Saturday, because the last time he won the Xfinity race, he won that. And guess what happened on Sunday?
He won Sunday. Yep.
He beat Chase Elliott at Watkins Glen again.
Yeah, didn't he race at Xfinity somewhere else earlier in the year? Road America.
Ty Gibbs won that race.
Yeah, that's right.
So after the Hendrick talk, I think we need to talk about Joe Gibbs racing the other team. Like Hendrick and Joe Gibbs are probably the top two teams in NASCAR, but maybe the most befuddling question is what happened? What Kyle Busch are we going to see in the playoffs? Because this has been a befuddling season for Kyle. I mean, yeah, he won the Bristol dirt race, but Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe went bonsai and wrecked each other in the last lap.
Right.
So I cannot figure out Kyle Busch this season. Just when I think he's going to get momentum, boom, he's wrecks. I mean, do you think we see a more consistent Kyle Busch, or
I think it's going to depend on how much his son is racing. Honestly, I think if we want to get a vibe on what Kyle Busch is going to do over the next 6 weeks, we need to pull the schedule of Brexton and see what he's going to be doing. Kyle has not had in my opinion, has not had his head in the game. As a buddy of mine at work pointed out, couple of times during the season when he's listened to the radio. Kyle's been asking about Brexton when they haven't been racing together. I know Kyle was up here for a weekly event at the local dirt track I used to race at. Did a big thing. Rowdy sponsored it, Rowdy energy drink. I think if Brexton is about done with his season, we better take note and look out for Kyle Busch. I think it'll be a different Kyle Busch. If Brexton is racing throughout the next 6 to 8 weeks, I think you're going to see the same sort of befuddlement.
Do you also wonder whether or not Kyle Busch's potential contract for 2023 is hurting his performance this year? Because in the past we never have seen Kyle spin out like he has done so many times this year. Think of Lauer when he spun out twice there.
I think it's part this car. I think the tire combo. I think it's part lack of practice time. He is a guy that likes practice time, likes to have notes, likes to make adjustments on the car as he feels for it. I think it's part Brexton. I think it's part the contract. I think all these things are playing into it. And I don't think he has a comfort level inside the vehicle itself. I don't think mentally he's in the same place that he was 4 years ago. So I think all that's playing into it, because you're right. And look, Kyle Larson, in my opinion, the best two drivers out there as far as talent, and Reddick would be coming up close in third, is Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson. I don't think there's any better driver talent on the track than those two gentlemen. And like I said, I'll put Reddick in that group now. Just my opinion, the way they wheel, the way they feel, I truly believe that. And yet those two Kyles have really struggled this year. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because you think two guys who can handle a race car better than anybody have mysteriously wrecked at unforeseen times.
Both of them have lost it out, just straight up on their own.
I can't believe he hasn't won a championship, but is Denny Hamlin poised for another championship run? Because it's been a hit or miss season. When Denny Hamlin's good, he's really good. But when he's bad, because the Joe other than Christopher Bell, the Joe Gibbs has not been great, particularly on the road courses. But you get Denny Hamlin a hot weekend when he's running well, look out. Because Hamlin won this race last year. He loves Darlington, and eventually Denny's got to win one of these championships, right? It doesn't seem right that he has not won a championship yet.
But it was kind of the same with Carl Edwards, right? Tied for one. As good and as much as he won back in his time, sometimes these things elude us. I gotta believe, though, as far as the Gibbs cars, if you had me pick one, I think it's Hamlin. Bell's definitely showed some speed. He's hungry, but Hamlin's been kind of sneaky. They snuck away with that first win earlier this year. Was that Martinsville or Richmond where he kind of stumbled into Richmond. Yeah. He stumbled into it there. If you look at the road courses, to your point, none of the Toyotas have been particularly good. Oddly enough, the 2311 ones have been a little bit better, but Bell's been kind of up front, showed some speed, and the only other one has been Hamlin. Maybe some of that's some driving ability in addition to, kind of compensating for the car or what have you. But I gotta believe that Hamlin's kind of figured out a little bit of a balance by now with ownership and driver. They have a great relationship between the two teams. There's plenty of support from the Toyota manufacturer as far as giving them the cars. And he's been very sort of, I don't know. He's been very selective with what he's had to say about the cars, but he's also been very kind of pointed with his comments. Let me ask you though, because Cindric got knocked out, right? There's
No,
only one Penske. Oh,
no,
he's in the playoffs still.
All three Penske cars made it.
Okay, so of the Penske guys, what are your thoughts on Joey Logano?
I I am not going to underestimate a Joey Logano Paul Wolf team, because you think you've got a championship crew chief and a championship driver, and Joey Logano can show up when it matters most. And you think back to what happened in May when he won this race. Joey Logano is not scared about maybe not wrecking somebody, but charging into the corner and get in the middle of you. He will do whatever it takes to win a race. And Paul Wolf is a gambler. And I think especially they may try some crazy strategy. They're going really short and making it like a tire race, or really long, doing some crazy strategy, but don't underestimate the 22 call, because they've been so darn consistent. They've been getting top fives. They've won a couple of times, won Darlington, won St. Louis. I feel like Joey Logano is poised to make a deep run in the playoffs. I don't know if they'll make Phoenix, because I don't know if the 22 call has necessarily been great, but if you get good runs, maybe get a win here or there, maybe that's all the 22 call needs to make Phoenix.
Are you worried at all? Because I feel like they have really lacked in speed the last month, like horribly, like way worse than I would have expected.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Joey Logano's been the fastest call, but if you think back, let's see, 6 at Indy, 4th at Michigan, 6 at Richmond, 3rd at Watkins Glen. I mean,
That's not bad.
that's not bad.
No, that's pretty good. I feel like when I've been watching him, he's just been there. You know what I mean? But to your point, if you're just being there and kind of finishing in that spot, you sneak away with a win, you're kind of in good shape. It's not like he doesn't know what to do at this point of the season.
I mean, could you say that a little bit about Chase Elliott? Because Chase Elliott may have 4 wins, but Chase is getting top 5s and top 10s every race.
I would tend to agree with you, but I'm also the guy that said I'm not overly excited about Chase for this next couple of months. But you're 100% correct. I wouldn't disagree.
So, if you know me, I am a trivia nerd, and I asked FantasyBosco to come up with a trivia question that will try and stump me. So, Bosco, go ahead.
All right, here's the problem. I couldn't find the answer to this question, but to recent memory, can you think of any other team that changed numbers going for whatever reason, the rest of the year, the playoffs, whatever, change the number for their driver to make a run at the Owners' Championship?
Oh gosh, are you?
I couldn't find the answer, man. I don't think it's happened, but I don't know.
I remember MW Michael Walter Racing changing numbers after Dale Jarrett retired in like 2008, but I don't remember a team changing numbers. I don't remember a team changing numbers because one call was in the Owners' Championship.
Right? Isn't that just kind of weird?
It's 2022 in NASCAR. What else would you expect?
You're right, because, all right, follow-up trivia, because I know you know the answer to this. When was the last time we had this many winners in a season? Different winners.
Oh gosh, was it? I think it was like 2001, right?
Yeah, it was something crazy. I had that one looked up too. I believe it was.
Yeah, and just think who hasn't won a race this year? Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex.
I know.
Would it surprise anybody if either one of those guys won a race in the playoffs?
No, not at all. Although, we have seen once the playoffs start that the playoff teams they typically rise to the top. You know what I mean?
once in a while.
Yep, 19 different drivers won a race back in 2001. Dylan, you were all over that. I told you you'd get that one.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon won the championship with like a couple of races left, but we'll leave it.
Yeah.
So ultimately, which 4 guys do you think end up in the championship 4 at Phoenix?
All right, I'm going to stick to my guns and say Harvick. I'm going to go with Hamlin. I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to put Logano in that group. I'm going to put Chase Elliott in that group.
I've got half of you guys. I've got Kyle Lawson in there. I feel like Kyle and Cliff Daniels can get it together, and we've got a bunch of good Kyle Lawson tracks coming up. Chase Elliott's in mine. Chase been so consistent. Feel like he can get a top 5 and win every week. Denny Hamlin is due for a championship, and you know what? It might be this year. I love the stretch of this season for Denny. And one guy I think who's ready to make a breakout run in the playoffs is Christopher Bell.
That's fair.
Bell's so consistent. Probably been the best Toyota on road courses this year, and you think Ranwell, Darlington, I think could win at a bunch of different tracks. Maybe not win, but he could get a top 5, top 10 at almost every track. And I'm excited to see Bell, Darlington, and also the fact he's running the Xfinity race on Saturday is going to help because he gets 200 extra miles.
Hey, I'm a big fan anytime those Cup guys hop in the Xfinity cars. I know people say, oh, that doesn't much converse, but as far as I'm concerned, that's more seat time on a track, on the track. You know what I mean?
Just don't have Noah Gragson wreck everybody like he did at Road America, in which Tyler Reddick took a hard hit.
I still blame Sage Karen for part of that, though.
Hey, at least Tyler won the next day, so we didn't care about it.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy that he's won on the road courses. That really is nuts to me.
Yeah, Chase Elliott's won. Yeah, Ross Chastain's won more road course races than Chase Elliott this year. Who would have thought?
Yeah, right. And the 3 wins. As good as a dirt track driver he is, as good as an oval driver he is, his wins came on road races. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, so thanks for hopping on Fantasy Bosco. We wish you well. Hopefully, the playoffs will be just as entertaining and maybe less crash filled as Daytona was last weekend.
Let's hope to it, Dylan. I'm with you, man. Give us some good racing and less crashing. Let's roll. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much for letting me come on.